My family told everyone I was a failure, and I sat quietly through my brother's engagement dinner until his fiancée looked at me and whispered, "Wait, your asterisk her asterisk." The room fell silent. Even my mother couldn't speak. I'm Abba Thompson. I'm 32 years old, and for the past 5 years, I've been quietly building my tech company while my family believed I was wasting my potential. Tonight, at my brother's engagement dinner, his fiancée recognized me as the founder of the app her company acquired for millions. The look on my parents' faces when she whispered, "Wait, you're the founder of Next Tech." That moment was worth every holiday dinner where they pitied me. My brother's jaw is still on the floor. If you're watching this from a place where your dreams are overlooked, give this a like and subscribe below. Growing up in Highland Park, a pristine suburb north of Chicago, meant living under certain expectations. My father, David Thompson, wasn't just a surgeon. He was the asterisk surgeon other doctors consulted when cases got complicated. My mother, Catherine, dominated courtrooms as a corporate lawyer who never lost a case. And then there was my brother, Ian, 4 years older and the perfect firstborn, who followed our father's path into medicine without a single misstep. Our home was beautiful but judgmental. The dining table wasn't just for meals, it was for reporting achievements. My mother often started dinners with, "So, what has everyone accomplished today?" Ian always had something impressive: perfect test scores, science fair victories, volunteer hours at prestigious hospitals. When my turn came, my answers never measured up. I built a website for fun, I announced at 15, genuinely proud of teaching myself HTML and CSS over a weekend. "That's nice, dear," my mother replied with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "But shouldn't you be focusing on your debate team prep? Colleges look for sustained commitments, not hobbies." My father nodded, already turning to ask Ian about his advanced biology project. The message was clear: computers were toys. Real success happened in operating rooms and courtrooms. My bedroom became my sanctuary, where I could dive into programming languages and tech forums without judgment. While Ian's walls displayed framed academic awards, mine held printouts of code and sketches of app interfaces. I stayed up until 2 a.m. learning Python and JavaScript, then dragged myself to chemistry class the next day. My parents didn't notice my exhaustion unless it affected my grades. At 16, I developed a program that streamlined my school's massive annual fundraiser. The event coordinator, Mrs. Peterson, was amazed when it cut her planning time in half. "Your daughter has remarkable talent," she told my parents at a school event. "Oh, Abba has many interests," my mother replied diplomatically, "but we're focusing on her meeting the prerequisites for law school." I wasn't even planning to apply to law school, but they'd already decided my future. The regional coding competition in my junior year was a turning point. After months of preparation, I qualified for the finals with an inventory management system I'd built. The competition fell on the same Saturday as Ian's medical school acceptance celebration. "We're so sorry, dear," my mother said, not sounding particularly sorry. "But your brother worked his whole life for this. You understand, don't you? Maybe next time." I competed alone, the only student without family support, and won first place. The judges, professional software engineers, told me I had a natural talent and vision beyond my years. I came home clutching my trophy to a house full of relatives celebrating Ian. My achievement earned a quick, "That's wonderful, dear," from my father before he returned to toasting my brother. That night, I decided I'd succeed on my own terms, without their validation. I'd build something they couldn't ignore or belittle, something that forced them to see me. My senior year brought college applications and my parents' pressure to apply to Ivy League schools with strong pre-law programs. Instead, I applied to state universities with excellent computer science departments. When my acceptance to the University of Illinois arrived, along with a generous merit scholarship, my parents reacted as if I'd announced plans to join the circus. "You're throwing away your potential," my father said, disappointment dripping from every syllable. "Your grades could get you into Harvard." "Computer science?" my mother questioned, her voice rising. "That's not a field for someone with your abilities." What they meant was, that's not a field worthy of a Thompson. Ian, home from his first year of med school, tried to mediate in his well-meaning but condescending way. "Maybe it's just a phase, Mom. Let her get it out of her system before law school." I left for college that fall carrying the weight of my parents' expectations, but also a lightness I hadn't felt before. I could finally immerse myself in what I loved without constant judgment. What my family called failure, I recognized as the first step toward finding my own path. College was liberating. At the University of Illinois, I wasn't the daughter wasting her potential on computer games. I was Abba, the student professors singled out for innovative approaches to coding challenges. For the first time, I was surrounded by people who spoke my language and valued what I could do. In my sophomore year, I met Maya Garcia in my advanced programming class. While most students struggled with the final project, Maya and I finished it in half the allotted time and added extra features for fun. We started grabbing coffee after class, staying until the campus cafe closed, talking about tech and its untapped potential. The healthcare system is broken, Maya said one night, her laptop open to an article about medical communication failures. Her mother had been misdiagnosed 3 times before receiving proper treatment for lupus. Doctors can work miracles, but they can't communicate effectively with each other or their patients. That conversation sparked something. Over the next week, we sketched ideas on napkins and whiteboards, envisioning a platform that would revolutionize how medical information flowed between providers and patients. By the end of the semester, we had the skeleton of what would become Nextech. Summer breaks meant returning home, where nothing had changed. At family gatherings, the first question relatives asked Ian was about his medical residency. The first question they asked me was when I'd switched to a real career. I started giving vague answers about studying tech, letting conversations move on quickly. Computers are getting trendy, my uncle would say dismissively. I'm sure you can find some entry-level job when you graduate, maybe in tech support. What they didn't know was that Maya and I were spending every spare moment building our prototype, working from her parents' garage in Chicago, a space they generously cleared for us. Her family brought us sandwiches and asked about our progress. The contrast with my own family couldn't have been starker. By our junior year, we had a functional beta. We entered entrepreneurship competitions, winning enough prize money to file patents and incorporate our company. A professor connected us with Dr. Evelyn Reed, a frustrated hospital administrator who became our first advisor and eventually our first paying client. This could transform patient outcomes, Dr. Reed said after seeing our demo. How soon can we launch a pilot? Meanwhile, at Thanksgiving dinner my senior year, my father cornered me by the dessert table. Catherine and I have been talking, he said, using my mother's name in that way that signaled a united parental front. We're worried about your job prospects. Ian can help you get an administrative position at his hospital, something stable while you figure things out. I took a deep breath. Actually, I'm working on starting a company. His laugh wasn't cruel, just incredulous. A company, Abba? Seriously. You need experience before you can think about entrepreneurship. Get a real job first. That was the last time I tried sharing my professional life with my family. It hurt too much to have something I'd poured my heart into treated as a childish fantasy. Maya and I graduated and moved into a tiny apartment in Chicago's South Loop. We lived on ramen and coffee, coding until our eyes burned, taking side gigs building websites to pay rent. Our first office was a desk in the corner of a parking space we could barely afford. Nextech gained traction slowly. A small angel investment from one of our competition judges let us hire our first employee, a brilliant developer named Leo. We landed a contract with a regional medical center, then another with a network of outpatient clinics. When I called home, conversations stayed superficial. Work's going well, I'd say when asked. They never pressed for details, assuming well meant I was scraping by in some entry-level tech support role. At Christmas that year, Ian announced his engagement to Chloe, a pharmaceutical sales rep. My parents beamed with pride as relatives asked about wedding plans. Later, my mother found me alone in the kitchen. You know, she said, refilling her wine glass, Ian's friend Ben is single. He's finishing his residency in neurology. I could arrange an introduction. The subtext was clear. If I couldn't achieve success myself, I could at least marry it. What my family didn't see was our user base growing exponentially, hospitals reporting reduced errors and improved patient satisfaction, and medical journals starting to notice our platform's impact. We need to talk about scaling, Maya said one morning, spreading investor meeting invitations across our desk. We can't keep up with demand. By the time I turned 26, Nextech had 30 employees and had raised $5 million in venture capital. I'd moved into a modest but beautiful apartment with a view of Lake Michigan and could afford to pay off my student loans. Still, when visiting my parents, I drove my old college car and wore simple clothes, letting them maintain their narrative of my struggles. It wasn't just about proving them wrong anymore. It was about protecting something precious from people who'd never valued it. I wanted success on my own terms, not as a concession that my path was valid. The distance between my two worlds grew. In one, I was a rising tech entrepreneur starting to gain industry attention. In the other, I was the daughter who hadn't lived up to her potential. The cognitive dissonance was sometimes overwhelming. The email from Memorial System came on a Tuesday morning in April. I read it 3 times before calling Maya into my office. They want to implement Nextech across their entire network, I said, my voice barely a whisper. 27 hospitals in 3 states. Maya sank into the chair across from my desk. That's the largest healthcare provider in the Midwest. We're done. We'd been building toward this moment for years, but actually reaching it felt surreal. The contract would multiply our revenue tenfold and establish us as a major player in health tech. Within hours, our phones were buzzing with calls from other hospital systems interested in what Memorial had seen in us. The next month brought our first acquisition offer from a larger tech company, $30 million. Maya and I sat in a sleek conference room, listening to executives twice our age explain why we should take the money and work for them. "It's a generous offer," Maya said as we walked back to our office. "It is," I agreed, "and we're going to turn it down." We both knew Nextech was worth more than money. It was about building something that truly helped people, something that mattered. We weren't ready to give up control. 2 weeks later, Sierra Partners, a venture capital firm, offered $30 million for a minority stake, valuing our company at over $100 million. This time we accepted. The investment would let us expand without losing our vision. When the press release went out, I requested only my first name be used. "A co-founder," the articles read, usually with Maya's photo next to a silhouette for me. It wasn't exactly about hiding, it was about controlling my narrative. "Don't you want recognition?" Maya asked after an industry conference where I deliberately kept a low profile. "You've earned it." "I do," I admitted, "but not yet, and not from strangers." What I couldn't fully articulate, even to Maya, was my complicated relationship with validation. I wanted my family to see me, truly see me, but I wasn't sure I could handle them taking credit for my success or dismissing it once it became undeniable. I needed this to be fully mine before sharing it. There was something powerful about building an empire quietly. In tech circles, I was becoming known as the ghost founder, the brilliant but camera-shy woman behind Nextech's revolutionary platform. The mystery only enhanced my reputation. The TechWave magazine profile came next. They wanted photos of both founders, but I negotiated a clear image of Maya and one of me from behind, looking out over our growing office. The article praised our innovation and leadership without delving into my past, just as I wanted. At 28, I was a multimillionaire on paper. I bought a sleek downtown Chicago condo, but kept it minimalist and understated. When relatives asked about my apartment, I described it vaguely as a small place with roommates, letting them believe I was still struggling. My circle of trust remained tiny. Maya knew everything, of course. My assistant, Sarah, pieced together the family dynamic after handling too many declined invitations to Thompson family events. My therapist, Dr. Evans, helped me process the conflicting emotions of success without recognition. "What are you waiting for?" Dr. Evans asked during a session. "What would make it the right time to tell them?" I considered the question seriously. I want it to be so undeniable they can't explain it away, so big they can't take credit or tell me I just got lucky. And I want to be fully at peace with never getting their approval, so if they still don't give it, I'll be fine. Dr. Evans nodded thoughtfully. "And you're working toward that peace every day," and I was. Building Nextech wasn't just about creating groundbreaking technology. It was about creating myself, separate from the expectations that had defined my early life. The irony wasn't lost on me. My brother had followed our father into medicine, but I was the one revolutionizing healthcare. Nextech was now used by over 200 medical facilities nationwide. Studies showed it reduced communication errors by 43% and improved patient satisfaction rates by 38%. Every few months, usually after a family gathering where I'd been subtly pitied, I'd check our company's valuation and user stats, not out of vanity, but as a reminder that external validation wasn't the measure of worth. The numbers grounded me when old insecurities threatened to resurface. Then came rumors of a potential acquisition by Jerry's Signal Technologies, one of the largest healthcare software companies in the country. Their initial approach was tentative, gauging if we'd consider an offer after rejecting several others. "They're talking at least $200 million, Maya said after an exploratory lunch with their head of development. $200 million, a figure that would make headlines, a figure my success-driven family couldn't ignore. Part of me wondered if this might finally be the moment to step out of the shadows, but another part hesitated. Was I truly ready for my worlds to collide? What would it mean to suddenly be seen by people who'd spent a lifetime looking through me? I didn't have much time to ponder these questions. Life was about to force my hand in the most unexpected way. My mother's call came on a Sunday afternoon while I was reviewing quarterly projections. "About wonderful news," she announced without preamble. "Ian and Chloe have set a date, Labor Day weekend. They're planning an engagement dinner next month at Blue Haven. You'll need to clear your schedule." Blue Haven was Chicago's newest Michelin-starred restaurant, impossible to book without connections or a 3-month wait. Clearly, Ian was pulling strings through his hospital board contacts. "That's great," I said, genuinely happy for my brother despite our complicated relationship. "I'll be there." "Wonderful," my mother's voice shifted to a more critical tone. It's a very upscale event. Maybe we should go shopping for something appropriate. I noticed at Christmas your wardrobe is still very collegiate." I glanced at my designer silk blouse and tailored pants, an outfit that cost more than most people's monthly rent. Not that my mother knew. I'll find something suitable, Mom, don't worry. Well, if you're sure, she said, doubt unmistakable in her voice. Chloe works for a big tech company, very impressive woman on the executive track. Everyone will be dressed to impress. The irony nearly made me laugh. Instead, I took a deep breath. What tech company does she work for? Oh, something about healthcare systems. Jerry something, I don't recall exactly. Ian says they're a big deal in their field. My heart skipped a beat. Jerry's Signal Technologies, the company currently negotiating to acquire Nextech for hundreds of millions. This couldn't be a coincidence. Mom, do you know Chloe's last name? I asked, keeping my voice casual. Campbell, Chloe Campbell. Why Chloe Campbell? The name wasn't familiar from our acquisition talks, but Jerry's was a massive company with thousands of employees. Still, the connection was unsettling. After hanging up, I immediately called Maya. You're not going to believe this, I said, explaining the situation. My brother's engaged to someone from Jerry's. That's some coincidence, Maya replied cautiously. Think it'll complicate the acquisition. I don't know, but I need to find out who she is before that dinner. A quick LinkedIn search revealed Chloe Campbell was Jerry's director of strategic acquisitions. She'd definitely be involved in the next tech deal, likely leading it. In a few weeks, we'd be sitting across from each other at my brother's engagement dinner, where everyone believed I was an underemployed tech support worker. The universe had a twisted sense of humor. Family pressure intensified as the dinner approached. My mother called twice more about my outfit. My father left a voicemail reminding me to bring something impressive about my career to discuss with Chloe's parents, who were very accomplished people. A week before the dinner, I got the most painful call yet. Abba, we need to discuss something delicate, my mother began, her lawyer voice never a good sign. Your father and I were talking with the Campbells last night. They asked about you and, well, Ian mentioned you were between jobs. My stomach clenched. I'm not between jobs, Mom. Well, that little tech support role wasn't exactly something to brag about, she said. Ian was just trying to smooth things over. The point is, Chloe's father knows someone at Apple who might be hearing for entry-level IT staff. Isn't that wonderful? We could finally get you on a proper career path. The casual dismissal of my work, the assumption I needed rescuing, the complete lack of curiosity about what I'd been doing for 5 years, it hit me in a wave of frustration. Mom, I appreciate the gesture, but I'm happy with my current role. My voice was tight with restrained emotion. Don't be proud, Abba, she said. This is a real opportunity. We all have to start somewhere. After hanging up, I called Jessica, my childhood friend who'd recently moved to Chicago. Unlike my family, Jessica had always supported my ambitions, even when she didn't fully understand them. Over the years, she'd become one of the few who knew the truth about Nextech. They set you up for a pity job interview, Jessica said, indignant on my behalf, while you're in the middle of a $200 million acquisition deal. That's next level, even for your parents. The worst part, I said, laughing at the absurdity, is that my brother's fiancée is literally the person negotiating to buy my company, and no one in my family has a clue. So what are you going to do at this dinner? Jessica asked. Show up in jeans and a hoodie like they expect, or go full CEO mode and watch their jaws drop? I considered the question seriously. Neither. I'm just going to be myself, no pretense, no grand reveals, no games, just dignity. Jessica raised her eyebrows. That's very mature of you. 5 years of therapy will do that, I replied with a small smile. Besides, I'm done trying to prove anything to them. If they find out, they find out. I'm not hiding, but I'm not performing either. The night before the dinner, Jerry's final acquisition offer arrived, $215 million, with terms keeping Maya and me at the company for at least 3 years post-acquisition. We were officially about to become centimillionaires. As I picked out a simple but elegant black dress for the dinner, I felt oddly calm. Whatever happened tomorrow night, I knew my worth. No one could take that away. Blue Haven lived up to its reputation. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over blue velvet banquettes and tables set with gleaming silverware. A wall of windows overlooked the Chicago River, the city's lights reflecting on its dark surface. I arrived right on time, not early to help with setup, as my mother had suggested, nor late enough to make a grand entrance, just punctual and dignified like the entrepreneur I was. The hostess led me to a private dining room where my family was already gathered. My father stood by the bar, deep in conversation with an older man I assumed was Mr. Campbell. My mother fussed with place cards at the long table, rearranging them for optimal social engineering. Ian saw me first. Abba, you made it. He crossed the room and hugged me with the easy confidence of someone who'd never questioned his place in the world. Come meet Chloe. She stood by the window, tall and elegant in a burgundy dress, her dark hair swept into a sophisticated updo. I recognized her instantly from Jerry's executive page, though I'd never seen her in person during our negotiations, which had been handled through intermediaries until this final stage. Chloe, this is my sister, Abba, Ian said, with the slightly apologetic tone he always used when introducing me to his successful friends. So nice to finally meet you, Chloe said warmly, extending her hand. Ian talks about you a lot. I wondered what he said exactly, but I smiled and shook her hand. Congratulations on your engagement. I'm happy for you both. My mother appeared at my side. Abba, I see you found something to wear. It's nice. The pause said it all. We've seated you next to cousin Megan. You two always got along. Translation: I'd been placed far from the important guests. Dinner began with champagne and toasts. My father spoke first, raising his glass. To Ian and Chloe, for my son who's made us proud every day of his life, he said, his voice thick with emotion, and to a brilliant, accomplished woman worthy of him. We couldn't ask for a better addition to our family. My mother's toast followed, a carefully crafted speech highlighting Ian's achievements from his first science fair win to his recent promotion to chief resident. She concluded, and now he's found an equally dedicated partner in excellence, Ian and Chloe. As glasses clinked, I noticed Chloe watching me, her brow slightly furrowed, as if trying to place me in a context beyond Ian's underachieving sister. The first course arrived, and conversation flowed around me. Cousin Megan asked about my job with the delicacy of someone inquiring about a terminal illness. I'm in health tech, I said simply. Database management. Not a lie, just a massive understatement. Oh, that's nice, she replied, echoing my mother's earlier inflection. Is there room for advancement in that field? Before I could answer, my uncle leaned across the table. Abba, Ian says you might have a shot at a job at Apple. That'd be a big step for you. I took a slow sip of water. Actually, I'm pretty happy with my current job. My father overheard and joined in. Abba, there's no shame in accepting help to get a foot in a respectable place. We all want to see you succeed. Across the table, Chloe's gaze intensified. Recognition dawned in her eyes. Abba, she said during a lull in conversation, her voice cutting through the ambient chatter. Sorry, but your last name is Thompson, right? The table went quiet. Ian looked confused. Of course it is, she's my sister. Chloe's eyes widened. You're Abba Thompson asterisk from Next Tech. And there it was, the moment I'd both dreaded and secretly anticipated for years. Yes, I said simply. Chloe set down her fork with a small clink against the fine china. Wait, you're the founder, the CEO, Abba Thompson, the one where, she stopped abruptly, aware of the public setting. Ian laughed nervously. Chloe, I think you're mixing Abba up with someone else. My sister works in tech support or something, right? Chloe shook her head slowly, locking eyes with me. Your sister is the founder and CEO of Next Tech, the healthcare communication platform revolutionizing patient care across the country. The company my firm is in final negotiations to acquire for over $200 million. The silence that followed was absolute. My father froze, his wine glass halfway to his lips. My mother's hand flew to her pearl necklace. Ian's mouth literally dropped open. Is that true? My father managed to say. I held his gaze steadily. Yes, Maya Garcia and I founded Nextech 6 years ago. We currently employ over 70 people and serve more than 300 healthcare facilities nationwide. But why didn't you tell us? My mother asked, genuinely bewildered. Before I could answer, Chloe continued, her professional demeanor giving way to genuine enthusiasm. Your platform reduced medication errors at Boston General by 62% in its first year. The interface design revolutionized how doctors access patient data. We've tried to build something similar for years, but your solution is light years ahead. That's why we're willing to pay such a premium to acquire it. My family stared at me like they were seeing a stranger. In many ways they were. $200 million, my father said faintly. Chloe nodded. The acquisition closes next week, pending final approval. She turned to me with a slightly embarrassed smile. I had no idea you were Ian's sister. Your company's profile only lists Abba, no phone, and our teams have been handling negotiations. I prefer to keep a low profile, I said, the understatement of the century. Rest of the dinner passed in a haze of stunned questions and awkward revelations. Relatives who'd pitied me an hour earlier now asked for investment advice. My mother mentioned 3 times that she'd always known I had a knack for computers. My father claimed he'd been telling colleagues about his entrepreneurial daughter for years. Only Ian stayed relatively quiet, processing that his struggling little sister was about to sell her company for a sum that dwarfed his lifetime earning potential as a doctor. Through it all, I maintained my composure, answering questions politely but without the desperate need for approval that had once defined me. The validation I'd craved now felt empty against their sudden opportunistic pride. As the evening ended, Chloe pulled me aside. I'm sorry if I caused an awkward situation. I was just so shocked. I smiled genuinely. Don't apologize. It had to happen eventually. For what it's worth, she added, your reputation in the industry is extraordinary. People call you the ghost genius. I nodded. Now I see why you kept such a low profile. As we said goodbye, my mother grabbed my arm. We need to talk soon, Abba. Really talk about everything. I nodded, knowing the conversation was inevitable but no longer fearing it. We will. Walking to my car, I felt lighter somehow. The secret I'd carried for years was finally out. Whatever came next, I'd face it on my own terms, secure in what I'd built. The first text came before I got home from the dinner. My mother, we need to talk. Brunch tomorrow at the Drake Hotel, 11 a.m. By morning, my phone was flooded. Relatives suddenly recalled always supporting my tech interests. Cousins who hadn't spoken to me in years asked about investment opportunities. Ian sent 3 texts, each more bewildered than the last, culminating in a simple, "Why didn't you tell me?" I only replied to my parents, agreeing to brunch. Some conversations needed to happen in person. The Drake's dining room was elegant and understated, perfect for the difficult conversation ahead. My parents were already seated when I arrived, both impeccably dressed, as if for a high-stakes business meeting rather than a family brunch. My father stood, wavering awkwardly between his usual greeting and something more fitting for a daughter he'd just learned was wildly successful. He settled on an awkward hug. "You look good." My mother was less restrained. "Darling, we have so much to talk about. I've been reading about Nextech all morning, the innovation awards, the funding rounds, the user growth stats. Why did you hide this from us? We're your family." I took a deep breath. "I think you know why." "We most certainly do not," my father said, defensive. "We've always supported your interests." The waiter arrived with coffee, giving me a moment to collect my thoughts. Once he left, I looked directly at my parents. "You never took my interest in tech seriously. Every time I tried to share my work, it was dismissed as a hobby, something to get over before finding a real career. After a while, it was easier to stop trying." "That's not fair," my mother protested. "We only wanted the best for you. Tech seemed so uncertain." "What you wanted," I corrected gently, "was for me to follow a path you understood and approved of. When I chose differently, you treated it as failure." My father leaned forward. "We always knew you had potential, Abba. We were just pushing you to excel." "No," I said firmly. "You were pushing me to conform. There's a difference." "Well, clearly it worked," he retorted. "Look at what you've achieved. Maybe our pushing motivated you." It was the exact response I'd feared and expected, taking credit for a success they'd had no part in, rewriting history to cast themselves as supportive mentors rather than dismissive critics. "Dad," I said, "do you remember telling me to get a real job at Thanksgiving 5 years ago, or suggesting I take an administrative position at Ian's hospital because my work wasn't viable? Mom, do you remember arranging a pity job interview for me last week?" My mother had the decency to look embarrassed. "We were worried about you. You never shared details about your work. How were we supposed to know?" "You could have asked," I said. Really asked with genuine interest, not just expecting an answer that confirmed what you already believed about me. The conversation continued over eggs Benedict and mimosas, painful but necessary. My mother wavered between defensiveness and attempts at reconciliation. My father, true to form, tried to maintain his authority, suggesting he'd always seen my hidden potential. "Your brother always spoke highly of your intelligence," my mother offered, as if Ian's approval retroactively legitimized me. "I know you both love me," I said finally, "but love without respect or understanding isn't enough. I needed you to see me for who I was, not who you wanted me to be." We parted with tentative plans to have dinner the next week, a first step toward whatever our relationship might become. It wasn't the cathartic resolution of a movie scene, but real healing rarely is. Ian showed up at my apartment that night, unannounced, holding an expensive bottle of Cabernet. "I brought wine," he said awkwardly. "Figured we might need it." I let him in, surprised by his initiative. My sleek penthouse, with its floor-to-ceiling windows and minimalist design, was a far cry from the struggling existence he'd imagined for me. "Nice place," he said, looking around. "Really nice, thanks." We settled in my living room, wine glasses in hand, Chicago's skyline glittering beyond the windows. "So," he began, "I've been an idiot." The blunt admission startled a laugh out of me. "Not entirely." "No, I have," he said. "I bought into this whole story that you were struggling or lost or whatever. I never really asked about your work, not asterisk really asked." "You didn't," I agreed. He swirled his wine thoughtfully. "I think I liked being the successful one, the one who made Mom and Dad proud. It was comfortable." His honesty disarmed me. I'd expected excuses or the same revisionist history our parents had tried. "For what it's worth," he continued, "I'm sorry, and I'm really impressed by what you've built. Chloe hasn't stopped talking about your platform. Apparently, you're some kind of genius." "I just built something I believed in," I said. "Something that actually helps people, like what you try to do as a doctor." He nodded. "Except on a much bigger scale." We talked for hours, really talked, maybe for the first time as adults. He asked genuine questions about the challenges of building a company from scratch. I asked about his medical work, genuinely interested in his answers when they weren't framed as proof of his superiority. As he left, he paused at the door. "Chloe really likes you, you know. She felt awful about outing you at the dinner, but hopes you two can be friends, especially if you'll be working together post-acquisition." "I'd like that," I said, surprised to realize I meant it. Over the next weeks, as the acquisition moved toward completion, my family relationships entered uncharted territory. My parents oscillated between genuine efforts to understand my work and reflexive behaviors born of decades of seeing me through a particular lens. There were awkward lunches where my father tried to give me business advice, and odd phone calls where my mother asked if I was eating properly despite my packed CEO schedule. But there were also moments of real connection. My father asked to see the next tech platform and listened intently as I explained its features. My mother admitted she'd never really understood tech but was proud of what I'd created. Small steps, but significant. The most unexpected development was Chloe's role in bridging my two worlds. As my future sister-in-law and a professional colleague, she had a unique perspective on the Thompson family dynamic. "Your parents are trying," she told me over coffee one afternoon. "They just don't have the vocabulary for this version of success. They're learning a new language," I observed. She smiled. "I grew up with parents who measured worth by academic and professional titles. It took me years to realize there are many paths to a meaningful life. Maybe I can help translate a bit." And she did, gently educating my family about the tech industry, contextualizing my achievements in terms they could understand, and occasionally nudging them back to reality when they slipped into old patterns. Her efforts weren't always successful, but they eased the transition to our new reality. The acquisition closed as planned, making Maya and me centimillionaires overnight. The press release used our full names and included professional photos, my first public acknowledgement as Nextech's co-founder. The ghost genius was finally stepping into the light. 6 months after my brother's engagement dinner, life had found a new rhythm. The Nextech acquisition was complete, and I was now leading the innovation division at Jeri Signal Technologies. Our platform was rolling out to hospitals across 3 continents, with Maya overseeing international expansion. My office overlooked the Chicago River, its waters reflecting the changing seasons. Today, spring sunlight glinted off its surface as I wrapped up a conference call with our Singapore development team. A text from Chloe interrupted my work. "Reminder, dinner at your place tonight. Bringing that wine you liked. Ian says he's making dessert, so expect emergency bakery cupcakes when he inevitably burns something." I smiled. These casual family dinners had become a monthly tradition, something I'd have found unimaginable a year ago. Sometimes my parents joined, sometimes it was just the 3 of us. But the easy camaraderie that had developed between Chloe, Ian, and me was something I cherished. Working with Chloe had fast-tracked our friendship. Her direct approach to business matched mine, and her insights into my family's dynamics proved invaluable. She understood my parents in ways I sometimes couldn't, identifying the insecurities beneath their controlling behaviors. "Your dad didn't dismiss your tech career because he thought you'd fail," she observed once. "He dismissed it because he didn't understand it, and David Thompson hates not understanding things." My relationship with Ian had transformed most dramatically. Without the hierarchy of successful doctor and struggling sister, we found common ground. We were both driven, detail-oriented perfectionists who genuinely wanted to improve healthcare. We now exchanged ideas instead of judgments. My parents were trying. That was the most accurate description. We'd set new boundaries, with my mother no longer offering unsolicited advice about my appearance, and my father making visible efforts to ask about my work without immediately suggesting improvements. Our weekly Sunday calls were no longer exercises in evasion, but real conversations, not always easy, but real. My mother even visited Nextech's offices, her initial discomfort giving way to genuine pride as employees greeted me with evident respect. The healing wasn't just external. The acquisition had given me the freedom to focus on my well-being in ways I'd neglected during the startup grind. Regular therapy sessions with Dr. Evans helped me process the complex emotions around my family's sudden recognition. "You spent years protecting yourself from their judgment," he noted during a session. "Now that protection isn't needed in the same way, but the habits linger. It's okay to lower some of those barriers gradually." I'd taken his advice, not just with family, but by building a broader support network. Jessica remained my oldest and most trusted friend, but I'd also connected with other women entrepreneurs through mentorship programs and industry events. The isolation that had marked my early career gave way to a chosen family of people who understood both my work and my journey. One particular joy was mentoring young women in tech. Once a month, I hosted workshops for high school girls interested in STEM fields, sharing not just technical knowledge, but the emotional resilience needed to pursue unconventional paths. "My parents think computer science is just a hobby," a 15-year-old told me, echoing my own experience. "They want me to be a lawyer like my mom." "What do you want?" I asked. "To build things that matter," she replied without hesitation. "Then build them," I said, sharing resources and encouragement. "Find the people who believe in your vision, even if they're not your family, and keep the door open for your parents to understand later." That night, as I prepared for dinner with Ian and Chloe, I reflected on how far I'd come. The external validation I once craved had arrived in abundance: industry recognition, financial success, even family acknowledgement. But I discovered something more valuable along the way: the ability to validate myself. Ian arrived first, bringing both a surprisingly edible homemade chocolate cake and the emergency bakery cupcakes Chloe had predicted. I covered my bases, he admitted with a laugh, but I'm getting better. Only set off the smoke alarm once this time. Chloe arrived with wine and wedding planning updates as we gathered around my dining table. Conversation flowed easily from work to the wedding to family gossip. Mom's reading books on tech startups, Ian reported. Found founders under 30 asterisk on her nightstand last week. Better late than never, I said without bitterness. Later, as we moved to the living room with coffee and dessert, Chloe asked a question that caught me off guard. Do you ever wish things had been different, that your family had recognized your potential from the start? I considered it carefully before answering. Sure, sometimes it would have been easier, less painful, but I'm not sure I'd have developed the same resilience or clarity of purpose. I learned to believe in myself when no one else did. That's a powerful foundation. Plus, Ian added with newfound self-awareness, if mom and dad had been cheering your tech career, I might have grown up even more insufferable than I was. We laughed, the sound floating over the city lights. Journey wasn't over. Family relationships are never truly fixed. They evolve continuously. There'd be more difficult conversations, more moments when old patterns threatened to reassert themselves. But something fundamental had changed. I no longer needed my family to see my worth to know it myself. That freedom let me embrace their growing appreciation without desperation, forgive past slights without forgetting their lessons, and build relationships based on who we were becoming, not who we'd been. Success isn't measured by recognition, but by impact. By that standard, Nextech had succeeded beyond my wildest dreams, improving patient outcomes and healthcare communication for thousands. And I'd succeeded in creating an authentic life true to my values and vision, no matter who approved. As for family, both the one we're born into and the one we choose, perhaps the greatest lesson was that relationships can transform when we show up as our full, authentic selves. Not everyone will celebrate your path, but those worth keeping in your life will eventually learn to see you clearly. The next day, as I looked out over the city from my office window, I felt gratitude for the journey, however complicated it had been. The path ahead wasn't perfectly clear, but I was walking it on my own terms, creating success by my own definition. And that, more than any acquisition deal or family validation, was the true achievement. If my story resonated with you today, I'd love to hear about moments when you had to believe in yourself when others didn't. Leave a comment below sharing your experience. And if you know someone who needs to hear this message of self-belief, please share this video with them. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories about finding your own path, even when it's not the one others expect. Thanks for listening to my journey. Remember, true success isn't about proving others wrong. It's about proving yourself right.